Math 112, sample quiz 1. F of x is given. F of negative 10 means replace every x with negative 10. This negative in front of the x squared means it's the negative 1 understood times whatever x is squared plus 3 times x means plus 3 times whatever x is. Plus 13 gets brought down. We perform the exponent first. Negative 10 squared means negative 10 times negative 10, which is positive 100. We're not dealing with this negative 1 yet. 3 times negative 10 is negative 30. Plus 13 gets brought down. This means negative 1 times 100, which is negative 100. Bring down everything else. Negative 100 minus 30 is negative 130. And we have to add 13 to that. Negative 130 plus 13 is negative 117. Which set of ordered pairs does not represent a function? It's the second choice because x is repeated. When x is negative 5, y is negative 3, and when x is negative 5, y is something else. Every x has to yield one and only one y value. So an x repeated means this is not a function. If a y is repeated, like in the first choice, that's not relevant in this question. The other three choices are all functions. Determine whether the following graph represents a function. By the vertical line test, this is not a function. If I can draw a vertical line which crosses more than once, then this is not a function. Here is a vertical line that's crossing not just once, but twice. And there's other vertical lines I could draw to prove that this graph is not a function. Find the value of f of 5. F of 5, the number in there is x. When x is 5, f of 5 means the y value when x is 5. When x is 5, y is 3. Given the definitions f of x and g of x below, find the value of f of g of 3. We have to do what's in the parentheses first. G of 3 means 3 times 3 squared minus 6 times 3 minus 11, which is 3 times 9 minus 18 minus 11. 3 times 9, that's 27 minus 18 minus 11. 27 minus 18 minus 11 is negative 2. F of g of 3. So we calculated g of 3 and got negative 2. F of that result means negative 5 times negative 2 minus 10. Negative 5 times negative 2 is positive 10. 10 minus 10, so the final answer is 0. This little circle here means g of f of x. f of x is 2x, negative 2x minus 5. G of this green stuff means up here in G of x, anywhere there is an x, here and here and here, we put negative 2x minus 5. G of negative 2x minus 5 equals the green thing squared plus 6 times the green thing, and then plus 2. Negative 2x minus 5 squared means negative 2x minus 5 times negative 2x minus 5. This 6 gets distributed. Positive 6 times negative 2x is negative 12x. Positive 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. Plus 2 gets brought down. To multiply these binomials, I'm going to say FOIL. Negative 2x times negative 2x is positive 4x squared. Negative 2x times negative 5 is positive 10x. Negative 5 times negative 2x is positive 10x. And negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. The negative 12x gets brought down. Negative 30 and positive 2 can be combined. Those are like terms. 2 minus 30 is negative 28. 4x squared gets brought down. 10x plus 10x is 20x, but 20x minus 12x is 8x, positive 8x. And 25 minus 28 is negative 3. That last step would be just combining like terms. 4x squared plus 8x minus 3. Y equals x squared is shown here. That's referred to as the parent function. To get this graph, we're going to shift every point to the right 2 and up 2. On Delta Math, you would click on this green dot and move this green dot to the right 2 and then up 2. And the whole graph will move automatically when you just move the green dot. So this green dot will end up there. This blue dot, you don't have to do this for every point. It will all move automatically when you move the green dot to the right 2 and up 2. This blue dot down here will move to the right 2 and up 2. This blue dot will move to the right 2 and up 2. This blue dot will move to the right 2 and up 2, and so on. So the entire parabola is shifted to the right 2 units and up 2 units. So that graph that I just made is y equals x minus 2 squared plus 2. To write the equation of a line, we use y minus y sub 1 equals m parentheses x minus x sub 1. That what I just wrote is called point slope form. So we need to find the slope. The slope of a line is the change in y, that's y2 minus y1, over the change in x, x2 minus x1. In this example, or in this exercise, the slope is this y coordinate, negative 5, minus this first y coordinate, negative 7, over the change in x. So it's the x coordinate, -1, minus the other x coordinate. And I'm going to start over because I made a mistake. Sorry about that. The formula is correct. It's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. These are in the form x, y, and x, y. So y2 is -5 minus y1 is 8. x2 is -1 minus x1 is -7. So it's a good idea to label these first, x1 and y1, and then these over here are x2 and y2. -5 minus 8 is -13. -1 minus -7 is the same as -1 plus 7, which is 6. The equation of the line is y minus the y coordinate, which is 8, equals m, which is -13 over 6, parentheses x minus the x coordinate, which is -7. But it's minus a -7, so I'll write +7. Since you could have called the -1, -5, those could have been called x1 and x and y1. It would also be acceptable to say y minus this y coordinate, y minus -5. The slope will still be -13 over 6. And then it's x minus the x coordinate, so it's x minus -1. So yes, either of these would be acceptable. They're both in point slope form. To graph this line, we know that -2 is the y-intercept. So we put a point at -2 on the y-axis. And slope is -1/3. When we make a line with negative slope, we go down and to the right. Down, down, and to the right. If the slope were positive, we would go up and to the right. Down and to the right for negative slope, up and to the right if it was positive slope. Down 1 and to the right 3. From this blue dot, down 1 and to the right 3. Connect those blue dots and that's the answer. On Delta Math, you'll just click, in this problem you would click at -2 on the y-axis, and then with the mouse move down 1 and to the right 3 to click and make another dot, and the line will automatically be drawn through those 2 points. We're going to simplify this so that it has only positive exponents. To get rid of the parentheses, all the exponents on the inside, and there's an understood 1 on that -3, all the exponents on the inside get multiplied by the exponents on the outside. The rule is a base with an exponent in parentheses with another exponent on the outside is the same as the same base raised to the x times y. In this case, it's -3 raised to the 1 times 2. Next to that is s raised to the -1 times 2. And next to that is c raised to the -4 times 2. On the bottom, we'll just leave that for now. So -3 getting squared becomes +9. On the bottom, we'll just leave that 4 for now. The rule for dividing, when a base has an exponent in the numerator and the same base has an exponent in the denominator, we keep the base, and the exponent here is going to be the exponent that's up there in the numerator minus the exponent that's down there. That means this part right here is s raised to the whatever -2 minus 10 is. And this part is c raised to the -8 minus minus 10. That's just using the rule that I just wrote over there. We start out with 9/4. And next to that, we have s raised to the negative 12. And next to that, we have c raised to the 8th, because negative 8 minus 10 turns into negative 8 plus 10, which is 2. And over there in the red, negative 2 minus 10 is negative 12. When an exponent is negative, like in this red here, that always means, well, I'll tell you on the side here, a base with a negative exponent always means 1 over the same base with the same exponent, but it loses the negative. That's a rule. So we have our 9/4. S to the negative 12 means 1 over s to the positive 12. And c to the 8th is just that, c to the 8th. So in simplest form, we multiply all these numerators. 9 times 1 times c to the 8th is 9c to the 8th. And we multiply all the denominators. 4 times s to the 12th is 4s to the 12th. Under this green is an understood 1. Multiply all the denominators, like I said. 9c to the 8th over 4s to the 12th. There's a mistake. Yes, 10, negative 8 plus 10 is 2. So I correct this. This is supposed to be a 2, just like I wrote over here to the side. So that means over here it's supposed to be a 2. So 9c squared. Everybody makes mistakes. It's 9c squared over 4s to the 12th. There's choices hidden under the screen. When an exponent is negative, we bring that up to the numerator. It makes the exponent positive. So we have a 1 already in the numerator. Next to that in the numerator, we'll have x to the positive 3/4. That 7 will stay in the denominator. It's understood to be 7 to the first power. When an exponent is a fraction, think of the phrase power over root. So we make this root symbol. X goes inside. Power over root means 3 is the power and 4 is the root. So, and an understood 1 in front of that. 7 on the bottom. So this was read the 4th root of x to the 3rd over 7. The 4th root of x to the 3rd over 7. It's easy to accidentally pick this choice up here, but power over root. So the 4 is the root. 3 is the power. The graph of an equation like this is a parabola. The equation is in the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. When a is a negative number, it'll be a pointing down parabola. To find the maximum, we use the formula x equals negative b over 2a. In this case, negative b would be negative 180 over 2 times a. A is negative 16. That's negative 180 over negative 32. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So this is positive 5.625. And to find the maximum height, we plug this number into here. The height of the rocket is y. The maximum height is y equals negative 16 times 5.625 squared plus 180 times 5.625 plus 63. And I punch all that into my calculator and I get y to be 569.25. But it does say to give the answer to the nearest tenth. So I would round this to 569.3 feet. To solve an inequality with that's quadratic, we first factor this if possible. X squared is the first term, that's x times x. 5 could be 5 times 1. To get this a positive 4x, this needs to be a positive 5, and this needs to be a negative 1, because 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. And the outers and inners would be x times negative 1 and positive 5 times x. Combine these and you get that, positive 4x. To be greater than 0, well, first thing we do is make a number line, or the next thing we do, mark on the number line negative 5, because negative 5 will make this 0. Negative 5 plus 5 is 0. And also mark 1, positive 1, because 1 minus 1 is 0. And then we just test a number in each interval. If we test a number smaller than negative 5, like negative 6, negative 6 plus 5 times negative 6 minus 1, that's a negative number, and that's also a negative number. And when we multiply a negative times a negative, we get a positive, which is a good thing, because that means this times this will be greater than 0. A negative times a negative is greater than 0. We test a number in between negative 5 and 1, like 0. Test means plug into here. 0 plus 5 is a positive number, and 0 minus 1 is a negative number. A positive times a negative is a negative. So numbers in this interval are not good, because this times this will not be greater than 0. A negative number is not negative. A negative number is not greater than 0. Test a number bigger than 1, say 2, for example. 2 plus 5 is a positive number, and 2 minus 1 is also a positive number. When we multiply two positive numbers, we get a positive number, and positive numbers are greater than 0. So the numbers that make this inequality true are numbers that are over here, meaning less than negative 5, or numbers over here meaning numbers that are greater than 1. I believe you can enter this into Delta Math just like I have here, or in this form. Negative infinity up to negative 5, not including negative 5, or 1 to infinity, not including 1, not including infinity. To find the zeros of a quadratic formula, of a quadratic equation, we use x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Negative b would be negative 8.4, which is positive 8.4, plus or minus the square root b squared. Even though b is negative, when we square it, it will be positive. And my calculator is telling me that 8.4 squared is 70.56. Minus 4 times a is 2, times c is 5.1, positive 5.1. And that's all over 2 times a. A is 2. We're going to perform the multiplication over here. 4 times 2 times 5.1. 4 times 2 times 5.1, using my calculator. Is 40.8. And it's all over 4. Now we'll do the subtraction. 70.56 minus 40.8. is 29.76. And this is all over 4. I think I'd like to share with you a way to do this, the rest of this on a calculator, a graphing calculator. Our answer is going to be rounded to the nearest hundredth. So I'm going to start with parentheses, 8.4 plus the square root of 29.76. And use the right arrow and then close the parentheses. The parentheses are to tell the calculator that all of this is over 4. And then to get the minus in there, because it's 8.4 plus or minus, if I press second enter, and I can use the left arrow to get the cursor on top of the plus. When it's there, I just change it to a minus and then press enter. So that means the zeros of the function to the nearest hundredth, the x is approximately 3.46 to the nearest hundredth, or x is 0.74 to the nearest hundredth. On Delta Math, when you have more than one answer, you'll have a box to type in your answer. When you type in one of the answers, it doesn't matter what order these are in. If you type in 0.74, when you type a comma, another box will automatically appear for you to type in the other answer. Like I said, it doesn't matter what order, as long as you have both of these answers. If you were to type another comma, another box would appear. But you don't want to do that because there are only 2 solutions, 2 zeros. The horizontal asymptote for this function, because the degree of the numerator and the degree of the denominator are the same, the horizontal asymptote is the ratio of the leading coefficients. So y equals 3/4. Before we find vertical asymptote and or whole, we're going to factor. The numerator is the same as 3x times x minus 5. The denominator is the same as 4x times x plus 1. Because these x's cancel, that means there's going to be a whole where x is 0. The number that makes that factor equal to 0 is the x-coordinate of a whole. And to find the y-coordinate, after reducing this, 3 times x minus 5 over 4 times x plus 1, we reduce because the x is canceled. If we plug 0 into this reduced form, 3 times 0 minus 5, 4 times 0 plus 1. That's 3 times negative 5. And the denominator is 4 times 1. That's the y-coordinate of the whole, negative 15/4. A whole has the x-coordinate of whatever number makes the thing that cancels equal to 0. When the thing that I just crossed out is equal to 0, that's the x-coordinate of a whole in the graph. A vertical asymptote is when the denominator, after canceling, is equal to 0. X equals -1 is a vertical asymptote. It's found by setting the denominator, after reducing, setting the denominator equal to 0. I mean, the 4 is irrelevant because if you distribute the 4, you have 4x plus 4. If you set that equal to 0, subtract 4 from both sides, and then divide both sides by 4, you still get x equals -1. X-intercept is when y is 0. X-intercept is when y is 0. And we could use the reduced form for this. The reduced after distributing is 3x minus 15 over 4x plus 4. If we make the y, and by y I mean f of x, if we make that 0, cross multiply 3x minus 15 times 1 equals 0 times 4x plus 4. 0 times anything is 0. Add 15 to both sides. Divide both sides by 3. X is 5 when y is 0. That's called the x-intercept. It's the point where y is 0. Y-intercept is when x is 0. And we already found out that when x is 0, there's a hole in the graph. So we have to say there's no y-intercept. Ordinarily, we find the y-intercept by replacing x with 0. If you do that, you'd have to go back to the original. You'd get division by 0, which is impossible. So there is no y-intercept. And this is what the graph looks like. There's a hole where x is 0, crosses the x-axis where x is 5, y equals -15/4. I mean, y equals 3/4 is the horizontal asymptote. That's that dotted line. And x equals -1 is the vertical asymptote. And the graph does not cross the y-axis anywhere. There's no y-intercept. A log is an exponent. That means this -1/5 is the exponent on this base. The base is down in the basement. Base raised to exponent equals whatever is written here. The negative exponent means 1 over the same base with the same exponent, but without the negative sign. This is power over root. The 5 is on the bottom. That means it's the 5th root of 32 raised to the first power. One is the power. The 5th root of 32 is 2. The 5th root of 32 is 2. So that's the final result, simplified. The reason the 5th root of 32 is 2 is because 2 to the 5th, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 32. The 5th root of 32 is 2. 1/2 is equal to x. To solve this equation, we're going to first divide both sides by 45. So 3 to the 2x equals 315 divided by 45 is 7. And now we're going to take the log of both sides. You can either use log or ln. I'll use log. The log of the left side equals the log of the right side. A log property that's important is the exponent can go in front of the log, so it turns into 2x times the log of 3 equals the log of 7. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 2 log 3. So x all by itself equals the right side, log 7, divided by 2 log 3, because I'm getting x by itself. To get the answer to the nearest hundredth, I type in log 7 divided by 2 log 3. So the numerator is, and you can use either log or ln button, log 7 divided by parentheses 2 log 3, 2 closing parentheses. Log 7 divided by 2 log 3 to the nearest hundredth, x is 0.89.